Hello, welcome to this recording of the Vintage Format Championships. Um, I'll be running back the same deck that qualified me for the Vintage Championships, which is to say, Bug Midrange. This deck has done pretty well for me since I picked it up. It started with Joe Brennan's deck that won Eternal Weekend this year, or last year, I guess now, 2019. And I made a couple changes based on personal preference. In this version, this is actually something I'm just trying for this match here. I moved the Fatal Push to the sideboard and put a Flusterstorm in because, I don't know, online I just don't see that many people who play decks where I want Fatal Push. When I do want them, I want them, but I don't see them all that often. I've also replaced Vendilion Clique with Ashiok Dream Render. The motivation for that is that I really just don't like Vendilion Clique. Yeah, I just don't. Whereas Dredge is a very bad matchup for this deck, and Ashiok can make that easier, although Ashiok is pretty slow. Nevertheless, every time I've played it, it's been pretty good. You can tell people hate it by how much they try to pour their removal at that rather than, say, Narset or something else, because they're like, oh, I want to use my fetch lands, Well, Ashiok's in play, they can't use fetch lands, they can't use Tinker, they can't use Dark Petition, they can't use Demonic Tutor. And then if they're playing Dredge or something like that, you can just nuke their graveyard. Sometimes, I mean, there are enough decks in this format where they don't necessarily have enough win conditions. Sometimes you just mill their win conditions. I mean, obviously that's not what you want to bank on, but it does happen. I have been impressed with Ashiok. Other changes, I put a Collector Oof in the sideboard because there's just so much paradoxical outcome online that just having another one seemed like a good idea. And so far I've liked it. I mean, it was with basically this build with I was experimenting with a couple other things that aren't quite in this one, but I got third in the last Vintage playoffs, qualified me for Vintage Champs, getting off to a 6-0 start. So, that was great. I'm not sure I'm going to keep playing this deck going forward. I'm playing it today in the sort of you dance with the one that brung you category because this is how I qualified. This is the deck I know. It would be foolish and the highest stakes Magic thing I've done. I mean, and this is higher stakes than the Grand Prix in many ways because there's only 48 people playing, and the prize of going to the Mox is so big. I didn't want to do anything too out there. In terms of changes, I mentioned Dredge is a bad matchup. I removed a Ravenous Trap to fit in this Tropical Island in the sideboard. This is a last-minute thing that was probably a bad idea. I did it because last night I did a league where just everybody had a million Wastelands, and I just kept being one land short of doing anything useful. That's probably an overreaction. I'm probably going to regret that, but Dredge is such a bad matchup. I don't know that I've ever really felt like Ravenous Trap actually won me too many games. I don't know. I feel like there's just been so much time that I have thrown my head against the wall trying to beat Dredge and then just failed anyway. Okay, we've got 5 minutes to go, even though it's 1 p.m. I guess it starts at 1:05 then. There's not a ton else to really explain here. I'm so bad at playing Gush, having never read Stephen Indian's book on the subject, that I sometimes wonder if I should just take it out because I'm so bad at playing with it. I basically know not to bounce lands during their end step for no reason, but that's about it. It's not a card I feel like I use particularly well. Yeah, I think that's it for my preferences. Against Dredge, I wouldn't be surprised if what I eventually do is just throw more Tabernacles in there because, I mean, Tabernacle is, if I threw out a bunch of Tabernacles and then Tormod's Crypts or something, because they have a lot of trouble dealing with Tabernacle, and it shuts off everything that isn't, Icarids and win this turn type cards. And then you could just deal with those with the Tormod Script or something. Yixlid Jailer is one of those cards that's insane when it sticks, but they just hit it with a Sickening Shoal most of the time. So I don't know. I've not been good against Dredge. I like my PO matchup, although I've noticed that I do a lot worse against PO decks that are played by people who really know what they're doing, which is going to be everyone today, so we'll see how that goes. I like my Shops matchups, although last night in my league I faced two of these blue Shops decks that I don't know. I mean, they had the wastelands when they needed them, and some things went unlucky for me. But I also just didn't know at first what was going on exactly. I got Force of Willed from what appeared to be a normal shops deck, and I was just I lost that. I can't remember if I lost that game, but I was a little. I was not expecting to get Force of Willed out of a shops deck where I hadn't seen any blue cards yet, but it happened, and it was kind of funny. Yeah. As for the matchup itself, as you can see, there's 39 people currently set up. I think 42 it says is the max, although I think only 40 people qualified, so I'm not really sure where that's coming from. You look at this, and it's just a list of like the top vintage players. This is basically like the top 38 vintage players and me, and that does not make me super confident. But I've noticed that a lot of these players like to play Paradoxical Outcome, and I thought I'd go with a deck that's really good against Paradoxical Outcome, and various Storm type decks. Oh no, somebody just dropped with. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I mean that was basically my plan. As a metagame call, I'm expecting a lot of Paradoxical Outcomes, so I brought a deck that's good against Paradoxical Outcome, and I even skewed its build a little bit in favor of beating more Paradoxical Outcome decks. Yeah, but, you know, there's some Dredge people here, like Lord Beerus, and this is not a good deck to be playing versus Dredge. I think after this tournament is done, I'm going to go back to Paradoxical Outcome myself, because it's just such a fun deck to play. But this is going to be the last like high-stakes vintage tournament for possibly ever online. I think this is the only format championship they're ever doing. After that, I can relax and go back to some of the slightly more fun decks. Of course, as soon as I do that, I'll just play against nothing but bug decks and get destroyed. But, you know, it's magic. I think this hand is fine. It's certainly not, like, a busted hand. I would like to have more lands, but it's got Force of Will and Spell Pierce. I mean, we can... I imagine myself just getting Brainstorm locked with this hand. Like, that's what's going to happen. Let's not kid ourselves. Yeah, they can have that. Oh no. Don't be one of those, like, blue, red, yellow, red decks. Okay, sure, you can have that. I'm trying to think of what decks I know that use basic. I'm going to play this Mox Jet in case there's any reason I want to Assassin's Trophy or just need to pay for a daze or anything like that. Basic Mountain is not a card you see super often in Vintage. This could be one of those mono red just like hose you decks, but if it is, I'm in pretty good shape against that because look at all these cards I've got. Time Walk. I'll just Spell Pierce that. I'm expecting them to tap out here, do Ancestral Recall, and I can throw out a Force of Will. At which point we'll both have 3 cards in hand. There'll be up a permanent in play. Maybe I shouldn't have Spell Pierced this. Now we're on the game of, is this a really complicated decision for them, or am I disconnected somehow? Now that I have the Mox Jet, I'm able to next turn Brainstorm, hopefully hit a land, and then I can Demonic Tutor to clear away things, or if I draw a blue land, I could Demonic Tutor. Okay, I'm just letting it happen. Really? They're not going to try to Ancestral now? How bizarre. Ooh. It doesn't really help a ton. If I had a Leovold, I could play it. I'd kind of love to Demonic Tutor for Leovold. That can't be a good idea, though. Right. Well, I could demonic tutor for my own ancestral recall. Then they'll ancestral recall. Then I'll force their ancestral recall. Then they'll have 3 cards in hand. Actually, doesn't seem terrible. Yeah, as expected. You can check the brainstorm here in case I draw a blue card for this force. Which I did. That's great. I feel pretty ahead now. I'm not gonna force a preordain. Forcing it, are you? I'm okay with this. I'm kind of debating whether I want to exile their ancestral right now. Right now, they could theoretically cast Treasure Cruise or something. I think they would have done that if they could have. What did they exile? They exiled Days. Okay, so this is a deck that plays Days. Like, that's important to remember. I'm going to leave the Death Right open for the moment. Dak Faden. Huh. See, if they minus it to steal an artifact, I just kill Dak Faden, so it doesn't really matter. If they plus it, I can actually just play Oko and then kill it. Yeah, I didn't think they'd minus it. If they play land or anything, they have 1 mana. I mean, 1 card in hand, which is not the worst for me. All right. So let's exile that ancestral. I want to draw a blue card. That's not a blue card. It is a very unhelpful card. I think that makes me want to trophy Dak. I'm hoping they don't have any more basic lands. Oh, they don't? Well, that's just neat. Alright, so it's going to matter a lot what they do with this Preordain. I'm hoping it's just bottom. If it's like bottom, play a non-basic land, let me nuke it, that'd be great. It's 1 on top, 1 on bottom. Yeah, I'm not going to force a Brainstorm. I'm assuming Brainstorm is what they left on top. This is done, they're going to have 3 cards in hand. The graveyard is so big, I would not mind drawing an Ashiok. See, what do I want to grab now? Time Walk is probably slightly more dangerous than Pyroblast, I'm not really sure. Or are they going to try to, like... Oh, they can't dig in response because they don't have a second blue. Come on, blue card. Not really what we looking for. So if I Oko and they counter it, they can just do whatever they want the next turn because I'll have no real way to stop them. Collector Oof hurts me more than it hurts them right now. So right now I can just hard cast Force. So I'm actually just going to wait. And I think they want to crack this Flooded Strand after that Brainstorm, but I believe they're out of basics. So if they crack it, they have to get something I can destroy with Wasteland. Ponder. Yeah, you can have Ponder. All right, so no one has to wonder if they have like Snapcast or something. And they do, as predicted. All right, so I don't have enough mana to counter the Snapcaster Mage. I put it on the Pyroblast, though. They have no use to Pyroblast right now. Maybe this means they're... Oh, they already cast Ancestral Recall. I don't know what else they'd cast during their end step that I'm particularly afraid of. Right, they're just going to cast Brainstorm, which I'm not super good. They really didn't need to do... Well, I guess they didn't need to do it in response, because otherwise I could have just targeted the Brainstorm. Yes. Just get rid of that now, shall we? I guess I actually shouldn't have done that just yet, in case I drew something I cared about, but... This deck has already shown us Daze, was basically my concern. Oh, and I still got to make them lose 2 life? Great. Wah. Ooh. Okay, so they did have the Force. But now they're at 10. They've got 1 card in hand. I can hardcast Force. This does not seem terrible for me. With the exile, another Force. Yeah, exile's Force with Force. All right, sure. I'm perfectly happy to just take 2 damage here. I'll target a sorcery. Well, they probably don't have any more Force of Wills, but whatever. Okay, so just gonna bolt my Delver. That seems fine by me. I would prefer that they not do it, but whatever. Leovold. Alright. That plays. That's a very sad Mystic Sanctuary. Really? Well, I guess if I had just let that happen, I could have then some other things. All right, so I would like your young Pyromancer, please. At Eternal Weekend, somebody played a Monastery Mentor when I had gone like Oko Plus, and I just stole the Mentor, and they're like, wait, it's that too? Yeah, I ended up losing that game because I just played Teferi and bounced it, but whatever. All right, we didn't see any land destruction. They have lots of token makers, which makes me want Deluge. Fatal Push, because they've got Pyromancer. Collector Oof doesn't seem particularly valuable here. What else might I want? I'm not bringing Graft Egg. Oh, Veil of Summer. Doesn't look like a Force of Vigor matchup either. There's an argument for Tabernacle because they'll make lots of tokens. They seem to run off not the highest number of spells, but I don't know. We'll see. Blue-red is not a good matchup for me. That game went in my favor for various reasons. Yeah, I mean, this is really bad against a busted start, but pretty fine against a fair start. They also full Jeskai then? That's just my worst matchup. And now they Ancestral. Yeah, remember when I said this was bad against a busted start? Oh, and I have no blue cards? Nice. Nice. I expect this to get plowed then? Alright, well, that's also a card. What are they grabbing if they've already cast Ancestral? Just Force? Dig. Interesting. Of course, not a blue card to help, but oh well. Alright, so they'll very likely dig next turn. If they don't, I can start eating their graveyard, which is not the worst thing in the world. So it's probably going to be like Dak then. Yeah, I don't have a way to stop that. This is going much less well than last game did. If I get Lotus, so I could like... No, they almost certainly got a Force at this point. It's just going to be for dig straight up right now, which is bad for me. Yep. I could just cast Veil of Summer, hope to hit a blue card, but that would not be great. Sylvan is not terrible. Although I need to just play Goyf more. I think I need to play Goyf more. Okay, so this is chucking a Dak Faden. Oh, there's that Daze again. Daze has just been eating me alive in Magic lately. On the other hand, I am now glad I did not play that Sylvan Library. What's the world where I conceivably win this game? I could play Tarmogoyf, something horrible will happen to it. They'll cast a bunch of spells, get a bunch more tokens, or I could Fatal Push it now. They don't get any more tokens. I mean, I don't know. I'm just pretty dead regardless. This is just a terrible matchup. And I've drawn literally 0 blue cards to go with this Force of Will all game, is that correct? I'm not super worried about a Dak Ultimate. It's not great for me, but it doesn't do as much as it looks like it does. This is a game where I would have so much loved to have drawn a third land, but, you know, this isn't a matchup to board in a third land. So, oh, hey, look, it's Oko. Nice. You're finally a blue card. I mean, I expect them to just, like, Ultimate Dak and then Pyroblast this. Yep. That's what I was assuming. Alright. Is it even worth continuing to play right now? I don't think it is. I just can't possibly win this game. Like, I could try to time my opponent out in the next round, but that's just I don't see that as a worthwhile use of anybody's time. All right, let's run it back. It's sad to start off this particular tournament that mattered so much with my worst matchup, but you know, I was very lucky to get here. I just played good matchup after good matchup after good matchup in the playoffs. So what goes around comes around. I don't think there's anything in my deck so bad that I'd be like, yes, let's just put in another tropical island. All right, come on, something good. Hand that does literally nothing? No. All right. I mean, ugh. I guess I don't really see myself using this Demonic Tutor in the near future. Play this. I'll Ancestral during their upkeep. And then just hope they don't have Force. My deck is not one that really requires you to mulligan to a Force, so there's a chance they don't have it. They also just didn't mulligan. Oh, they might have Mental Misstep too. Like, I have very little belief. Oh, it was solved. I'm okay with that. Man, what's it like to just have Ancestral Recall all the time? Snapcaster, sure. I really hope they just whiff on lands here, but that seems unlikely after the Ancestral and Gataxian Probe. Yep. All right. I'm going to play this Black Lotus to play around Days. What do I just like do it for 3 and then Goif? I think that's actually better. I think I am just going to waste that on a... I think that's what I have to do right now. And now I maintain an Assassin's Trophy and a Veil of Summer, and I'm too big to have it get bolted. And I have not seen Swords... I haven't seen any actual white cards out of them yet, so I haven't seen, like, Swords to Plowshares or anything. Which is part of why I wanted the artifact in my graveyard. I can also sack this Polluted Delta to just get him to a... Oh no, now he's already that big. Okay. So you could just be getting double bolted here. Yeah, it looks like that's what's happening. At which point my opponent is down to 4 cards in hand. Yep. All right. So I'm assuming this is a cruise or dig of some sort. At which point I will probably Veil of Summer just to draw a card. Yeah. I think I have to Veil of Summer to draw a card and hope I hit like a Spell Pierce or a Flusterstorm or something, because this is not good for me. I did not. Come on, Leovold, and they have neither Daze nor Force of Will. Where was all this mana last game? Yep. Preordain is like the least scary thing they could have hit. But they get like a 3-for-1 on this Narset if I Assassin's Trophy it, which... Okay. Might have to kill the Pyro... Well, I might have to kill the Pyromancer now because I can kill Narset other ways if I draw like a creature. But I just really don't want them getting more of those. But of course now they can just... Okay. Well, something. I mean, it's a card I can cast, which is not the worst thing in the world. Like, we're not... They only have 3 cards in hand. If they whiff on this Narset, then we're not totally dead. Nope. They didn't. At least they can't hardcast the Force. I mean, they'll just daze this is what's going to happen, but... It's always a chance their hand is just 3 lands and a Force of Will. Nope, it wasn't. Leovold? Leovold? Ugh. I'm wondering if some version of this deck might want like a more emphasis on ways to get Leovold out quickly. Problem is with 3 colors, it's not as easy to do. Lotus doesn't even really help all that much. All right, I think we can just pack this up. Kind of glad I stole game one at least, but boy, that was rough.